Welcome to the first episode of the Womanosphere. My name is Christina Manis. I'm a licensed pharmacist. I'm a yoga instructor. I'm a wellness coach, an ordained healing minister, and a Reiki master. But none of that matters. What I am is just your typical, ordinary, working class American woman. I'm 51 years old. I'm a part of Gen X. And I had this vision that women need to come together in numbers because we actually have more women in the United States than men. And I do believe, we can look it up, statistically speaking, that there are more women registered to vote in the United States than men. Now, this is not a political podcast at all, but it is about bringing women together in a way that is nurturing and cooperative and supportive. And the power of numbers means a lot. So we'll be exploring a lot of different topics in this podcast. This is a place for open conversations, and it's not a place of fear. It's not a fear-based podcast. There'll be an element of comedy, and it's not a place for anger. I think we definitely have enough podcasts that are about anger and culture wars. We are going to touch on culture, of course. That is definitely one of the main themes. We're going to touch on perspectives about personal growth. We're going to touch on perspectives about community. We'll touch on spirituality. We'll touch on politics eventually. But this is an all-around podcast for women. And we will have fun with this. We are going to be challenging the manosphere. We're going to be talking about make men men again, because there is a masculinity crisis going on, and men do seem to be confused. So we're going to be calling out some big voices in this podcast, having fun with that. And so just stay with me. But in the first episode, we're just going to explore the basics. We're going to explore the fact that women definitely have a lot of power that we're not using. We've really been a part of society forever, right? But our voices have been just a bit suppressed because we did not even get the right to vote until how many years ago? So we have a lot of power, but our voices are not coming through in today's world the way that they should be. And I believe that the reason for this is that we're not coming together. So this is an inspiration to get women to come together. And I would love to see women come together and actually really think about what it is like, first, to be a human. And then second, what it is like to be a woman. Why can't we tap into our nurturing selves and come together to support one another? Why can't we drop the jealousy thing? Why can't we drop the bashing and the competing that we tend to do? Because jealousy, more than anything, ruins people's lives, right? I mean, we all watch these Netflix episodes. We love the true crime and the unsolved mysteries and all of that. But how many times are you watching somebody go out and murder based on jealousy, right? It happens a lot. A person can ruin their entire life over jealousy. Women, especially, we are sort of pitted against one another, right, in our culture and taught to compete. And so there is a lot of jealousy in the female culture. And that's one thing that I would love to counteract with this podcast, to let you all know that, hey, guess what? There is room for everyone to succeed. All women can be successful. We can be independent. It is very possible to be independent and successful and still be there for your family, for those mothers who are a little bit worried about, if we get too involved in this whole feminism thing, we're going to become men and abandon our family. No, it's not about this. This is not a feminist podcast at all. I don't get into feminism. And the reason being is that everything that we have done in the past doesn't hold sway anymore, with whether you're a man or a woman. Everything that we tried to do in the past doesn't matter. This is about the moment of now going forward. So we already have come through some challenges as a gender, as a humanity, as a civilization, as a society. We've come through all these challenges, and we're still going through so many challenges. So this is not bringing up the past on how, you guys tried feminism and it didn't work. Okay, well, feminism was a good shot at trying to bring awareness to equality. Great. I love equality. And that is what a lot of this podcast is about. The fact that people are people. I want men to listen to this as well, because guys, you're going to get some ideas about what women actually want, what we think, how we feel. And that will maybe absolve some of the confusion and hopefully lead to a cultural collaborative coming together of the genders, of the sexes, instead of us having this gender war going on where men hate women, women hate men, men are confused, women don't want to date men. And there's a lot of statistics out there. I have posted underneath this podcast a link to an article that I wrote about the masculinity crisis. So if you're interested in reading that, go ahead and click on it. But I have been interested in this masculinity crisis for the last year. And basically what it is based on is statistics, where men answer polls and there's a lot of male loneliness. Men don't feel like they have anybody to talk to, and they feel kind of oppressed, right? And to me, that sounded crazy, like men being oppressed. I mean, come on, this is a man's world. That's for real. We know this. We're not like living in some kind of twilight zone now where, you know, women have taken over and women of color have taken over and now the white man has become like this small. No. 9 out of the 10 richest people in the world are white men. So that is brought up in the article. I don't really want to go there right now, but I do want to say that part of the reason for this space was to try to bring everybody together. But I think honestly that does start with women. Men right now have a lot on their plates. They are feeling pressured. They are feeling like failures. They are angry. They are tapping into their anger. We need women to balance that out. We have to come together as a gender or a sex. I don't know how you want to say that. It sounds so awkward. It's like come together as a sex. Well, whatever. However you want to term that. We have to come together to start anew. We don't want to go backward, but from this point forward, we're going to have to collaborate to end all of the confusion in men and in women. I feel like it's pretty dang simple. You treat other people how you want to be treated. You come together. You try to have relationships, whether they're friendships. You might meet your life partner. If that doesn't work out, you handle it. You break up amicably and you move on. The way that we tend to do it in our culture is a lot of pressure, sometimes in families, for people to get married, people marrying the wrong person, staying together when they're unhappy, or being in abusive relationships and not knowing how to get out, messy divorces where people are competing and fighting over custody, even when one may not really want full custody, they just try to make it hard for the other. And I see this all the time in our society, and it's really just useless and senseless. We'll have to come to a better way of just doing life, of just doing American culture. And that way starts with self-respect. And I think that's one of the major problems in our society is that we have a lot of people in general that don't respect themselves. And when you don't respect yourself, you don't respect other people. You don't. I mean, you might think that you show respect in certain situations, but a lot of times your disrespect will come out and you will offend other people and not even know why they're offended. This is because you don't have self-respect. A lot of people don't think about that. And so I think that's what causes a lot of problems too, where we are sort of, everybody's been brainwashed to a degree, right? However you grew up is a lot of what your cultural beliefs they stay with you, you know, they're ingrained in you. And even if you've moved away and you have developed beliefs and there's a lot of personal growth going on in your life, you still have your roots. And so a lot of times what we believe does come from how we were raised and the area that we grew up in. And that is very cultural. But right now, what we want to do is sort of develop a new cultural standard because our standards seem to be pretty low. Americans, I don't know why, in the 80s, you know, we decided to do Jerry Springer and Montel and Ricky Lake, and we loved that. Just trashy fighting on stage and drama, and we sort of, in one part, became that as a society. So that's not good, right? we want to get rid of that part or move away from that part going forward. We don't want to have a society with dramatic, trashy people who can't handle their relationships, who can't have healthy relationships, and who think that fighting and yelling and screaming and, going online and ranting and name calling is the best way to resolve issues. It's not. And we're making fools of ourselves. We are making fools of ourselves. We have to come around to some self-respect. You will find that in authenticity. I will encourage every single one of you to have thoughts of your own. I will offer you different perspectives on how to look at things, but I'm never going to tell you, this is how you should think. That's a Tucker Carlson thing. Also, one of the most popular TV shows when he was on air. Baffles me. We have to get away from wanting to watch the most extremist, ridiculous, angry rants so that these angry people who are just out there for the ratings are actually telling you how to think, and people are taking that rhetoric into their lives and spewing it out, thinking that, oh yeah, I'm great, this is so cool. But it's not. And trust me, men, women, we might not be saying what we're thinking, but when you're angry and you're insisting that the poor and the powerless are taking over and making your life miserable, you're not being accountable. Women like accountability, right? And so I'm going to ask women also to be accountable. This is about accountability and authenticity, independence, having thoughts of your own, and common sense when you are speaking something that you have heard and you're passing along rhetoric or propaganda. Really think about what you're saying, because on the receiving end of that, think about how you would feel or what you would think if you were on the receiving end of your own words. That is so important. I'll say it again. Think about how you would feel or what you would think if you were on the receiving end of your own words. Some of you are speaking words that make you sound like you are a bad person, like you are an evil person, because you heard it on a podcast, or you heard it on social media, or you heard it on TV. And because there's a group of people who are also speaking that same rhetoric, you have decided that it's okay for me to do it too. But if you really look at it and think about it, there's a lot of people just in regular life who maybe haven't seen that on TV or social media or podcasts, and they are confused about why you might be so passionately spewing something that doesn't sound like you. So pay attention to that in your own life. It's really important just to be authentic. If you don't have a lot of self-confidence, it's okay. You can develop that over time. And the more that you develop your authenticity and just get into like, hey, who am I? What do I really want? What is really going to make me happy? Like, I should stop worrying about everybody else's everything and just focus on myself. Once you would start doing that, you will notice that changes will come and you will find your voice. And actually, even if you're not confident, you'll start to get more confident. And even if that means just writing in a journal and not being real social, you'll still be more confident in whatever your own life holds for you and however you create your own life. This is about us creating our lives. So create your story and make it epic. Make it wonderful. I hate to see somebody that wastes their entire life on anger and conspiracy theories. Conspiracy theories will not be a thing on this podcast. We might talk openly about some things that could be off in an alternative topic zone. Like we can talk about UFOs and galactic families and extraterrestrials, right? But we're not going to go down the rabbit hole on conspiracies. We're just going to talk about things that might be happening out there in society, that might be coming up on social media. So we may touch on some of that stuff, but this is not a podcast that goes down the rabbit hole. This is a podcast that stays common sense. We stay, above the fray. And so I want to be clear to the audience so that we can come together, so that everybody's sort of on the same page and we don't have to argue over conspiracy theories and whether we believe them or not. Because, who cares? It's either a conspiracy or it's a theory. And if you don't know, you don't know. And I would say just handle what's right here in front of you yourself. living room, your family, whatever is rolling out in your day, handle that. Don't worry about conspiracy theories. So we're not going to go into that. This is more of a space that's just going to try to, like I said, tap into cooperation and nurturing and love and coexisting on this planet. And I am not a man hater, and this podcast is not about man hating, but let's bring men along. Come on, let's make men men again. What is up with men wearing makeup and thinking that's manly, and men shouting and screaming and thinking like that's the way, and men hating on women and thinking that's the way? So anyhow, we're going to be definitely doing a little bit of jabbing here on the make men men again front, and try to, get men to pay attention to what they're also doing and what they're saying, because it's the same thing. When you're using rhetoric, when you're not having thoughts of your own, when you're facing a male population that is confused and that is angry, we want to capture their attention, get men to settle down and understand that you're much better off if you're the nurturing type of provider. A woman does not want to be yelled at and abused and then bought so that, okay, the men's world, thinking is, well, I go to work, I'm the provider, I can go out and do what I want, I can talk to her how I want because I'm providing for her. Women don't want that. Women do want a provider, but they want nurturing. They want a man who is strong enough to admit when he's wrong. They want a man to be able to apologize. They want a man to be nurturing and to hug and hold and be tender and to give compliments. We're not expecting men to be women. No, we're not. We're expecting men to stop acting like weak women, because that is what some of the men today are doing. Strong women are stronger than men right now in a lot of cases. And I'm not saying that to be insulting to anybody, but we really do need to get busy on making men men again. I'm not going to give up on that. So that is going to be part of the podcast. But again, we're not going to totally focus on men, and we're definitely not going to be talking about man hating, because I love men, and probably so do a lot of you. Even if you are gay or bisexual and you prefer women, there's brothers and uncles and grandpas and dads and, people, friends that are men, I'm sure that you have. And so a person is a person. We're all connected. We are one. That'll be a lot of what I talk about when I get into segments about some spiritual growth that we can all use. So, just to be clear about what the podcast is and what it isn't, it's not conspiracy theories, it's not anger, it's not man hating. It really is about bringing women together in a space that is cooperative and supportive, and finding our voices and finding our power in numbers and coming together. And I feel that women can make a really big difference in the United States and then have an influence on women around the world. And I think we really have in a big way, because we've come up, women are in the workforce. There are women that are CEOs, not so much as men. We still have a lot of evening out the playing field. But I think as women step up and they're authentic and independent, and we, can have some common sense, and we can lead and we can influence with our perspectives, then men are going to come along, and we may have opportunities, for maybe 5 out of the 10 richest people in the world will be women. It's because 10 out of 10 of the richest people in the world are men. So there's definitely still that imbalance. And I think once, we shift as a culture, which we're in a cultural shift right now, towards more of a cooperative way, both men and women will see the value of women. They will see the value of men, and they will see that equality is not difficult. And it's actually a better feel if we all were equal and we were all thinking about one another and coming together and cooperating. Beautiful societies would be built. I mean, we literally could have heaven on earth. And that's all I'm going for here. I really am going for people coming together and formulating the new cultural shift so that we can create a heaven on earth. And so what this does not include is anger. And that's been a part of what has really started to destroy our society. And it has prompted the culture wars and the sex wars. And I'm telling you, people, we just need to come together again. If you remember the 90s, if you're old enough to remember the 90s when the economy was great and we had Seinfeld and Nirvana and Pearl Jam and all, like, just fun and new. That time was very lighthearted. We did not all hate each other. It was before social media came out, so we were not getting online and being having access to live streaming or the rest of the world. The world had not come together this way to be able to communicate. So, with a little bit more separation in the United States, the 90s was we weren't thinking about fighting each other or civil war or anything. I mean, we were having a blast, right? We can get back to that. We can definitely get back to that. We've just fallen into some darkness here where we're, become very divided. Politics is ridiculous. Like, these political, trashing and bashing that we're doing to one another online is just ridiculous. I mean, this is not what life is about, people. Life is about living and creating your story and making it epic. And so thank you for listening. Do tune back in. This is an introductory episode. So, coming up, we will get into the campaign. We'll go a little bit further with Make Men Men Again. We'll go a little bit further talking about the power of women in numbers. We'll be calling out some big voices, like I said, and we're going to be talking a lot about, women and balance and authenticity, and bringing in some of the ideas for how we can stay grounded and how we can build our inner strength and our spiritual strength. So all of that is coming up. Thank you for joining me today, and more to come.